Hello, my name is Samantha Havens. I'm an electrical engineering student here at the University of Houston, graduating in December 2019. From fall of 2018 to the end of summer 2019, I've been working on a mind-controlled drone with physiological feedback in the computational medicine lab. During this time, the project team and scope has changed 3 times. We will be calling these stages. In this video, I will be recounting each stage's goals, method, and outcome. This project started as a state space control lab with a group of 3 to 4. The best way to summarize the first stage is to show you the video I created for my final exam. Here it is. For the final project of ECE 5115, students were asked to connect an EEG machine to a drone and have the drone fly between 2 vertical obstacles. For this project, students were given a Parrot Rolling Spider mini drone and a Muse 2016 headset model MU02. Before starting, a lot of research was done to find the optimal solution given our hardware. The first challenge was connecting the headset to the computer. During the midterm, connecting a drone to a Mac was a simple process, but required a dongle for Windows. The headset had the opposite problem. Windows computers connected seamlessly, while Macs required a dongle. After having purchased a dongle for the Windows computer for the midterm, it was decided that the final would be on a Windows computer. The bulk of the research was on programs to connect the headset to Simulink. We found several options. First was MATLAB OSC. It required both a Windows and a Mac computer, and because we're turning this in, we didn't want to use a 2-computer setup. Then there was Muse.io. This program was created for a 2014 headset, and we had a 2016 headset. MuseLab gave us an OSC output. The OSC data format isn't compatible with MATLAB, so this wouldn't work either. We got a little closer with Muse Player. This option would save the data as a MATLAB file, but because it sends packets of information, the changes would be delayed, and we wanted the drone to be affected in real time. Finally, we found Muse SDK. As we looked through the Getting Started portion on the Muse developer page, they had a program that would read the data from the EEG and display it on screen. We changed the code a bit so that every time it read out data, it would also send that data in an array to Simulink in a UDP format. After we decided on a program, we began working on the project. During the midterm, we used a signal builder block to change the XYZ coordinates on the drone. We replaced that block with a UDP receiver block that comes with Simulink. We took the EEG data and put it into a bus so that way we could manipulate it from there. We used a graph to see the output and found that the most reliable data came when the user blinked. We used these graphs again in the next step while reading the data. To make the data useful, we had the blinking activate a series of events. First, hovering, then flying forward, and finally landing. We did this by utilizing if statements and having the blinking correlate to the changing in the XYZ axis. When the EEG data went above a threshold, the next if statement would trigger. The XYZ coordinates would then go into a feedback loop in the control system that was created during the midterm. This was a control system using the ASB quadcopter control system as a base. The main bulk of our testing and experimenting came from the initial research of the parts and programs. The blinking threshold also required testing. We wanted the user to have to hard blink so the drone would not stop or start accidentally. Overall, this led to a successful run. As you can see, the goal was to get left and right movement using the Muse headset. However, due to the noise in the data, we used blinking. In the next stage, lasting 4 months, we made a second attempt at using brainwaves as directions. Several things changed during this stage. First was the study team. During this time, there were 2 people in the study team, Reem bin Shabain, another undergrad, and myself. There were 2 major steps that needed to be done, the experimentation and the analysis. Our goal for this semester was to have the preliminary analysis inputted into the drone control system from stage 1. However, most of our time was spent in the experimentation step. We designed and ran 5 3-hour experiments. Each experiment was split into 4 tasks. During all tasks, subjects wore a brain vision, electroencephalogram, or EEG system, and 2 Empatica E4 wristbands, 1 on each wrist. 4 data points were collected: EEG, electrodermal activity, or EDA, body temperature, and photoplethysmogram, or PPG. In the first task, subjects were asked to go through a slideshow. Each slide had a different scenario and corresponding animation. Subjects selected left and right arrows corresponding to the scenario. In the second task, subjects were asked to watch videos of a drone going in 8 directions: left, right, up, down, forward, backwards, takeoff, and landing. During the videos, subjects had to focus on the directions intently. During the third task, subjects were given a controller and asked to fly a drone. They were instructed to do each of the directions independently from others, and 3 times each. Mistakes were expected and welcome. For the fourth and final task, subjects focused on imagining 10 left tasks and 10 right tasks and counted them for us. For the analysis portion of the project, Reem and I split up. Reem worked on analyzing EEG signals and correlating them with direction. She accomplished 2 parts of her objective. She figured out how to turn the drone using the previous control system and could identify when subjects were thinking left and right. As for me, I worked on the analysis of EDA, PPG, and body temperature. I wanted to correlate them with drone-related stress. I found that the only noticeable reaction happened when the drone started coming towards the subject. I identified a change in the tonic portion of the EDA when a drone came at one of the subjects. I also created an algorithm that measured heart rate based on PPG. Together, these were fed into the drone to stop it when any problems occurred. During the final stage, I worked on the project by myself. Based on my previous experiments, there were several improvements I wanted to make. First was the equipment. While the Empatica E4s gave me some insights into how the subject was feeling, I wanted more accurate information on EDA and PPG. So I implemented the BioPack system to record respiration, EDA, and PPG. I also decided to add FNIRS to the list of information I would collect. One of the major hurdles we had during the previous stages was markers. Instead of having markers inputted into our information, we used video footage to get our markers. During the final stage, I decided to use the PsychoPy software to send out markers to each piece of equipment. The next improvement I made was to the experiment itself. For this stage, the experiments were 4 hours long, and each subject had to do 7 tasks. Task 1 was the same as the previous, with 2 changes. First is that the slides were static. Each slide had a gray screen with a drone on it. Next, the subjects would click arrows on the keyboard instead of the arrows on the screen. Task 2 was the same, except the subject would slightly move their hands or feet to depict the direction. Task 3 also had the same slides, except the subjects were asked to focus on the direction the drone was going in intently. In Task 4, subjects were shown the same videos as in the second stage, but the subjects were asked to push buttons on the keyboard to depict the direction the drone was moving. In Task 5, subjects were shown the same videos as before and were asked to focus intently on the directions depicted. In Task 6, subjects were given a controller and asked to fly the drone wherever they wanted. The proctor would then mark those down using PsychoPy. In the final task, Task 7, chairs were set up in the room and subjects were asked to fly the drone through an obstacle course. When analyzing the data from this stage, several improvements were made. In my EDA algorithm, the phasic component was used instead of the tonic component. This gave me a more accurate understanding of the subject's valence. 2 improvements were made to the PPG component of the project. First, I found a way to make my code far more accurate than before. Then I used that information in a point process code that predicts the next beat interval, thus predicting stress and error. As this project continue, chunks of PPG data will need to be put through this model for a real-time calculation. As for the EEG component, during this stage I developed a basic code that can distinguish left and right movements from collected data mathematically. This component will need more work to isolate front, back, up, and down movements. Overall, the last stage I will have been involved in has been about improving data and analysis techniques and preparing for the next team to continue on with this amazing project.